Hi, Jane here with today's thought. And today, as you can probably guess, we'll be talking about the Trump trial, the verdict that was delivered the day before I'm recording this, and you're going to be seeing it on Monday. So this is a whole weekend. A lot will have happened between when I'm recording this and when you're seeing this, but a lot has happened already, and that's what I'm going to be talking about today. What has happened and what very may well happen as a result of this trial. Now, whether so many people have, and forgive me if you can, I'll be waving paper around because I have to refer to quite a bit, and I just can't remember it all. So I'll be looking down at my notes, and just bear with me. But whether you Democrats, their hope was riding on this trial to have Trump to be able to label him a convicted felon, and supposedly, the object would be to hurt him in the election and make him toxic and help Biden win, because there is no way that he can win on the issues, for the simple reason that he is a failed president. And the comparison between the Trump administration and the Biden administration, there's no comparison. And you're seeing that in the polls. And that's one thing I'll be talking about today. And we'll have to see what happens to the polls going forward. But there are some indications already that I'll be getting to. But first, I want to give you, the idea is, I'll be give you a summary in case you don't want to watch this whole video. I'll tell you right now, and then you can watch if you want to watch. But this was supposed to hurt Donald Trump, and we're already seeing indications that it's going to have the opposite effect, that it is going to hurt Joe Biden, and it is actually helping Donald Trump, which, by the way, is a good sending a message to the appellate court. Well, in New York State, where I lived for a while, interesting, as I do sometimes deviate a little bit, I digress. But as I mentioned in the past, I lived in New York for 40 years. I moved to Tennessee in 2019. So I've been there for most of Trump's career. But the trivia I want to just share with everybody, I can't help it, is my office. I'm a semi-retired real estate broker. My office was on Madison Avenue and 58th Street, between 58th and 59th, which was about a block away from Trump Tower. So if I were still living in New York, I could have and I would have just walked a block or so, a little bit more than a block, and a couple of blocks, and I would be in that crowd outside of Trump Tower, and reporting to you from there. But I'm not. I'm in Tennessee. But we're seeing indications that this is already hurting the Democrats. And I was going to say, before I digress, this is sending a message to the appellate courts, because the problem that Trump is having in New York, well, first of all, they should have had this will be one of the issues they will probably raise on the appeal. There is going to be an appeal, that there should have been a change of venue. If they couldn't hold it, if they have to hold it in New York or New York City, should have been Staten Island, where you have a good mix of Democrats and Republicans. Manhattan, you have 96%, I believe, of Manhattanites voted for Biden. So, and for Hillary, of course. So if you have if you're picking your jury from that pool, the odds are only 4%, 4 out of 100, that there would be even a single person on that jury that is not a partisan, never mind partisan. Trump, you have no idea. Trump was, as I said, I was there for practically his whole career. I think his career pretty much started with the Hyatt Hotel in 1974. I moved to New York in 1977. So Trump was well regarded. I mean, he was liked. Maybe some people didn't like him. Well, liberals didn't like him on the Upper West Side of New York because he wanted to develop the West Side of New York, and liberal New Yorkers, like liberals everywhere, they just opposed development. There was an abandoned rail yard all along the Hudson River, and Trump wanted to build luxury apartments there, which he eventually did. But the Upper West Side of New York, the liberals, they fought it tooth and nail because, well, tall buildings would impede their views, I guess, of the lovely Hudson River and New Jersey just across the water, because the New Jersey skyline is so beautiful. As you can tell, I'm laughing about that. If you've ever seen the New Jersey skyline, I mean, and talk about nothing to see here, folks. Move along. Anyways, moving along back to what I was talking about is that Trump was, I mean, you don't put Trump in all these cameo appearances, which you can see on YouTube, Home Alone, cameo appearances in movies, and then you had The Apprentice for several years, and you don't have that for somebody who's hated, who's a racist or whatever. Trump, as soon as he defeated Hillary Clinton, and even when he was announcing that he was going to run against Hillary Clinton, they took it as a joke and they just laughed. But when he actually beat Hillary Clinton, that's when everything changed. And you have no idea, if you are not in New York, you have some idea just from the news reports and from this bogus trial, but you have to actually live in New York to know how much Trump became hated after defeating Hillary Clinton. I have friends, as one of the few, this is talking about how liberal New York is. I know maybe one person, a colleague who was definitely a conservative in New York. Everybody else I knew, all my friends, people I associated with, co-workers, virtually all liberal Democrats. And this is the jury pool from which Trump's jurors were selected. So the message is, though, as I'm going to report now, in a few moments, this is going to be a long vlog today. If you can probably guess, I'm just telling you, they're hoping to hurt Trump, and it seems, I'll be providing evidence that's having the opposite effect. Now, all the judges, I talked about the jury, but that judge is a partisan Democrat. The prosecutor, highly partisan, far left, Soros supported Democrat. All the appellate judges above Trump, the judges to whom Trump will be appealing on the state level, they're all Democrats too. They're all Democrats appointed by Democrat governors. So this conceivably could go all the way up to the Supreme Court to get this out of Manhattan, to get this out of New York. And that may be the only way that he gets a fair hearing and a reversal. But there's a chance, though, because these partisan Democrats and these Democrat judges, they'll be reading the news like everybody else in the polls. And if they see that this is helping Trump, then just as a political matter that put the justice aside, which seems to have happened in New York, that they would quickly reverse that verdict, because it's going to hurt Democrats, and it's going to hurt it's going to hurt Joe Biden, and it's going to help Donald Trump. And so if your goal is to defeat Donald Trump, then the obvious course is to reverse the verdict. And actually I don't know why they couldn't, they are so obsessed with getting power, and they hate Donald Trump so much, they never considered the fact, which to me was obvious, that this could help Trump, that you were better off winning on the issues, and don't he should never have been prosecuted. That case should never have been brought, but it was. But maybe they will get the message, these judges, if they can't do it on the basis of the law, that maybe they will do it just as for self-preservation or preservation of Joe Biden and his chances in the election. Anyways, so I'm going to give you first just a brief summary of what happened in this trial, what this trial was, and it comes an email I got this morning, actually, from the National Review, conservative publication. So you can take that into consideration. And that's why we have a comment section below. Well, I don't have it. YouTube has it below the video, and it's there for you. You can believe one thing, and that's getting back to these judges, whether you believe this was a fair decision or a political decision. If you're a Democrat, you have to want this reversed if you see this hurting Joe Biden, and you're already seeing it. I'll get to it in a moment. But first, I'm just going to quote from this email I got because it pretty much sums up the whole deal. So I'll put the quotes up, and then just follow along with me. There's a few paragraphs, and then I'll get to the blowback, the boomerang that I already see happening. And here, let's get to the quotes, get these out of the way. A Manhattan jury convicted Donald Trump on all 34 counts of fraudulently falsifying business records. The verdict was historic but unsurprising. District Attorney Alvin Bragg, a progressive Democrat whose campaign touted his record of filing lawsuits against Trump in the state attorney general's office, pursued a manifestly selective prosecution. The 34 counts involved bookkeeping infractions from 7 years ago. At most, trivial inaccuracies that are misdemeanors normally not prosecuted in New York, and charges for which should have been time barred by the 2-year statute of limitations. Bragg inflated them into felony counts with a 6-year limitation period by alleging that Trump had been concealing another crime. In blatant violation of basic due process. This is where the Supreme Court comes into play if the state courts don't administer justice, that it could go to the Supreme Court, because there is a constitutional issue here. Getting back to the quote, in blatant violation of basic due process, Bragg refused to describe this other crime with specificity. This caginess owed to the fact that Bragg planned to allege that Trump had violated federal campaign law, a corpus that Bragg has no jurisdiction to. Remember, he's a local DA, a state DA. He's not he has no authority to enforce federal law. So a corpus that Bragg has no jurisdiction to enforce, and that the federal agencies that do have enforcement authority for the Department of Justice and the Federal Election Commission concluded Trump had not violated. Bragg was abetted in this stratagem by Judge Juan Merchan, an activist Democrat who contributed to Biden's 2020 campaign against Trump, and whose daughter is a progressive operative who does lucrative election work for top Democrats, including Biden, that would be Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and Adam Schiff. Judge Merchan gave Bragg's prosecutors every bounce of the ball. That included allowing them to call porn star Stormy Daniels for gratuitous graphic testimony about what she alleges was a tryst with Trump in 2006. Denying the defense's motion to call as an expert former Federal Election Commissioner Brad Smith, who would have testified, and he said, he was interviewed, he said he would have testified that the payments for non-disclosure agreements to Daniels and another woman who complained, that would be Karen McDougal, who claims a long-ago affair with Trump were not cognizable campaign expenditures under federal law, and allowing Bragg's team to establish a conspiracy to violate federal campaign law by stressing the guilty pleas of Trump's former lawyer, Michael Cohen, even though under rudimentary legal principles, the guilty pleas were not admissible against Trump. The coup de grace was Merchant's jury instructions, a roadmap to conviction that the jury dutifully followed. So let me just back up a little bit to the thing about Michael Cohen's guilty plea, because that's inadmissible. The reason it's inadmissible is because first of all, he was never charged or convicted of any kind of campaign violation. What happened was that he was convicted of something entirely nothing to do with Trump at all. The tax violation. I forget exactly what it was, but he was facing. Well, he actually got. He's been disbarred. He's gotten a prison term, but it could have been longer. And one of the reasons it was less than it would have been was he agreed to plead guilty to a campaign election violation that he never committed. But this is an unfortunate element of our judicial system. If you want to know why, other people have commented on this, legal experts, that people, when defendants are prosecuted, 98 the conviction rate for prosecutors are well over 90%, and it's because, that's my understanding. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's very high, and it's because of plea bargaining, where a defendant will be accused of a very serious crime that he could lose, and in any case could bankrupt him, put him in jail while he's awaiting trial, and bankrupt him with the lawyer fees and so on and so forth. So the prosecutor would say, well, if you cop a plea to a lesser offense, then we'll reduce the sentence, and maybe even just give you probation or something like that. So people a defendant will very often cop a plea, plead guilty to something that they're not guilty of, and because of the fear of being convicted of a more serious crime of which they are not guilty, and so on, yada yada yada. So that's basically what happened with Michael Cohen. Now, why it's inadmissible is because if that's allowed into court to say, the prosecutor says, were you convicted of, you admitted guilt, you pled guilty to a campaign finance violation, then the implication could be to the court, well, if he pled guilty and he works for Donald Trump, then Donald Trump must be guilty too, because this guy, this is Michael Cohen, because he pled guilty. Now, that's not evidence. That one person pled guilty to something does not mean that the other person did. The prosecution has to prove a case, and that's why it's not admissible in court. But this judge allowed that in, and he told the court, he told the jury in his instructions. This is the interesting part. He told one of the egregious aspects of this whole trial. He told the jurors that they were not to take this guilty plea as evidence against Donald Trump. But the prosecution, when they said that it was evidence in their closing statement, was proof that it showed that this was a fact, this campaign violation, the judge let it go. He let him say it. And this is this is only in New York, okay? In any other jurisdiction that I'm not a lawyer, but that I am aware of, but closing statements, the prosecution goes first, so you know exactly what the summation of what the charges are against the defendant. Then the defendant can speak, gets his closing statement to refute what the prosecution alleges. And then the prosecution gets the last bite of the apple, gets to come up and refute only those points that the defense made, to rebut those points. But in New York, this is the catch-22 in a way. the defense has to go first. So the defense, Trump's lawyers had to go make a statement without knowing what the prosecution would allege in their closing statement. Exactly that's the whole thing. Lawyers to today, all these legal experts, they don't know what this crime is that he was what raises this misdemeanor that where the statute of limitations expired. What raises this to a felony? It was never specified, and the judge didn't require them to specify. And only in the closing statements did the prosecutor start to at least kind of flesh out what the charges were, but the defense had already had their turn, and they were not allowed to rebut. So the prosecution had the last word, the prosecution had the last word, and whatever they said, the defense could not refute. And they'll refute it on appeal, I guess, but that's why this Michael Cohen, why that guilty plea. And that's just one example of all what happened in this trial. But now, what has been the result so far? This was supposed to damage Trump irreparably so that he would not be elected, and Biden, who could never win on the issues, would be elected. That people who were inclined to vote for Trump would decide not to. People who were on the sidelines and hadn't decided either way, that they would now decide for Biden. But that doesn't seem to be what happened. Now, there was one poll, I'm not going to put it up, but 67%, 2/3 people said the verdict would not affect them at all. 14% said that it would make them less likely to vote for Trump. And 17%, a higher percentage, said that it would make them more likely to vote for Trump. I believe this was a poll of just independents, but other things have happened. And this is I'm recording this. This is less than 24 hours after the verdict. Okay. Now, what I did apparently is what a lot of other people did. As soon as that verdict was announced, within a few minutes, I went on the internet to donate, which I eventually did, $50 to the Trump campaign. Now, but when I couldn't donate until later in the evening, because when I went to donate the first time, I couldn't get onto the site. The site had crashed. So many people were donating. And this is an interesting, now you have to remember, it will be very interesting next month to see how much Trump raised this month. It raised in May as a result, this trial. Now, May is almost over, so I guess it will be August. We'll have to get the real dope on it. But I'll give you this one interesting fact. It was in April, the Biden campaign raised $54 million. The Trump campaign raised about 75 million, 74, 75 million, something like that. So they outraised by a significant margin Joe Biden last month. Now, the interesting part is, remember that number now, 54 million. That is how much Biden raised in April, for the month of April. Since that verdict was announced, the Trump trial, from that verdict until midnight, just in that short frame, the Trump campaign raised $34 million. The Trump campaign raised in a few hours almost as much as Biden last month raised, for the whole month. So that is one effect. Now, another effect that was reported, that about a little over a third of those donors, such as myself, wouldn't be me. Well, it could be me. I make regular monthly, just automatic donations to the National Senatorial Republican Senatorial Committee and the National Republican Congressional Committee. But I don't know if I don't think I contributed to Trump at all, because I was waiting for him to be formally nominated. But I contributed $50, and I said, and I just cited over 1/3. So what that is over 1/3 of those donations that came in those few months, those were first-time donors, people who had never contributed to Trump. And there are some people, this is a really big one. This is one dramatic effect, and we'll see how many other people join the club. But there is one of these tech millionaires, wealthy tech people, Silicon Valley, very liberal area, very liberal people. This is a guy, Sean McGuire. He is one of these people, liberal Democrat, voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016. I believe he sat out the 2020 election. I'm not sure. But he, in those last few hours, one of the ways they got to this 34.8, I think it is, $million. He contributed $300,000. 300,000. A liberal Democrat, never voted. Didn't vote for Trump, and he was so outraged by that verdict that he contributed $300,000 to the Trump campaign. Now, here is another fact for you. Joe Manchin, you should know who he is, a Democrat senator from West Virginia. What's interesting was he's retiring because he knows he won't be reelected, West Virginia. He's running against Jim Justice, a former governor, very popular, and by voting for the Inflation Reduction Act, Joe Manchin pretty much killed his career. So he's retiring, and yet, even though it doesn't make a difference electorally, he might have done this some time ago, and to help him in the election, maybe, and then he would run again. But, put up the headline here. Retiring West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin leaves Democratic Party, files as independent. So here you have a fed up, because of it's no coincidence, the immediate aftermath of this horrible Trump verdict, he left the Democratic Party. Long time. He's in his 80s, and he's always been a Democrat, just left the party. And there are a lot of, if you go on Twitter or X, you're supposed to say X, formerly Twitter, you go on there and you'll see, I saw a lot of them yesterday, of people saying, I never voted, I never contributed to anybody, but I'm voting for Trump, and I'm contributing to Trump. And a lot of these, I already told you about over a third in the last few hours of the $34 million that Trump raised, first-time donors. So we'll see how far that carries on. You can be very angry initially and then change your mind later, or things calm down. So we'll see what happens. But right now, you're seeing significant blowback. Now, I'm just going to give you another fact. This is going a little bit into the past. We'll see how this pans out. But before this happened, before this verdict, this is the latest poll, an Emerson College poll for New York. They put up polls that show a 2-person race and a 5-person race, a 2-person Biden versus Trump. But that's not the race that we're going to be having. There are 3 other candidates. So they would be RFK, Cornel West, Jill Stein. So with 5 candidates, this is Emerson College. This is a recent poll, just came out, and today, I believe, as I'm recording this, or the day before, and Joe Biden 44%, Donald Trump 38%. That is a gap of, you don't have to be very good at math to see that's a gap of 6%. Trump is within 6% of Biden in New York State. As I'm, as of when this poll came out. And it's May 28th to May 29th is the period that is covered. So up to 2 days before I'm recording this. So let's see what happens going forward, because, well, you can see a lot of people are angry. Now that takes us to preview of coming attractions, because Democrats never learn. And this is what I cannot understand. As somebody very wisely said, that the problem that Democrats have is when they're in power, when they're out of power, they act like they will never be in power. When they're in power, which is the important point for today, when they're in power, they act as if they will never be out of power. They do what they have to do to hold on to power and to get what they want. Whatever the policy is that they're pushing, they will push the envelope as far as they can to win their policy issue, with nary a thought about what would happen if they lose. Well, we'll say when, because the parties, the Congress and the presidency, they change hands every so often. That's just the way this country is, especially being as closely divided as it is. So they never think that they could be out of power, and whatever tactic they use to get what they want could boomerang and be used against them. And that's what that happened with the filibuster. They wanted to get some lower court judges through that the Republicans were filibustering, so they got rid of the filibuster for those judges, but they didn't get rid of it for the Supreme Court, because they wanted to leave that open for them, so they could, if they lose power, I guess, they could filibuster Republican nominated potential justice. The Democrats tried to filibuster, and the Republicans eliminated the filibuster because of the precedent that they set. And now, well, it works both ways. Ketanji Jackson Brown is on the Supreme Court because the Republicans could not filibuster it, but Trump's got 3 conservative justices on the Supreme Court because the Democrats could not filibuster them. If they could, then none of those 3 justices probably would be on that court. So you see how that hurt them. And now the tactic that they use just now to get Trump, if Trump wins, does it not occur to them that the same tactic can be used against them, against Democrats? And there are Republicans, you're going to see in a minute, you're going to hear from one of them saying that the justification was that Republicans now, they must do the thing because this idea of lawfare, it has to stop. It has to stop, and there's only one way it will stop, and that's if it hurts Democrats. What they did to Trump, if the same thing isn't done to Democrats, if they don't get a taste of their own medicine, then they will use this tactic over and over, and Republicans will just have this tactic used against them over and over. So that's what we're going to show right now. We're going to start with Megyn Kelly. Now, Megyn Kelly she's a pundit. I mean, she's a commentator. She has a vlog. She has a podcast, and you can see on YouTube and on X, formerly known as Twitter. You can see excerpts from her podcast, and she addresses this very topic and and she says right out, as you'll hear her say in a moment, that the Democrats are going to rue the day that they did this, because this tactic is now open to be used against them. And that's all I'll say for now. I'll just let Megyn Kelly speak, and here she is.
This whole scheme, and here it is, the proper word, is corrupt. It's a before and after moment for America. What just happened today is a line we can't uncross. And these Democrats will rue the day they decided to use lawfare to stop a presidential candidate. I'm not talking about violence. I'm talking about tit for tat. You just wait, and it won't be Hunter Biden the next time. It's going to be Joe Biden. It could potentially still be Barack Obama. It could still potentially be Hillary Clinton. We're going to have to look at what the statutes of limitations are on the various crimes they surely committed. We're going to have to look at passing laws to revive those dead crimes, felonies or misdemeanors, so that those cases can be brought out of time. That's what may be in the interests of justice, just like they did for E. Jean Carroll with a New York State law that was passed so that she could sue him. That's what happened. Turnabout is fair play. And John Yoo, an amazing lawyer who worked in the Bush administration, Department of Justice, has a great piece out today talking about how that's the only way they'll learn. The only way to save the republic now is to give them a taste of their own medicine. That's it. That's it. They tasted blood today. They're the wolves with the bloody piece of meat in their mouths. That doesn't stop the wolf from coming back for more. The only thing that will stop him is if he loses a limb of his own. And I'm sorry, but the Democrats started this game in the same way the Republicans upped the ante when it came to, for example, the filibuster fight. The Democrats got rid of it for lower court judges. Mitch McConnell said, you will rue the day because we're going to be in control of this chamber one day and you're going to lose the filibuster at the higher level court and you'll be sorry. That's what needs to happen here. Who's getting indicted next? Joe Biden? Maybe Jill Biden. How low can we go? You may not want to see it. That ship has already left port. That horse has left the barn. That's where we're going. So before you celebrate too much over at MSNBC and CNN, who are positively gleeful over this absurd conviction, you wait and ask yourself, what kind of Pandora's box has been opened here?
That was Megyn Kelly. As I said, she is just a pundit, just a talking head on a podcast. Now you're going to hear from J.D. Vance. He's no talking head. He is a senator. And let's just hear what he has to say.
I've never heard constituents so frustrated and so angry at what they've seen. Not the 2020 election, not the fake impeachment scams. This, I think, has activated Republicans. And you see Alvin Bragg and a lot of these other criminal prosecutors. They have a spring in their step today. I think they're going to realize that what they have done has backfired terribly. Because, Jesse, the thing that we've learned is that these far left people, they don't respect anything but power. That is the only language they speak. We have to be willing to fight back. We need to be subpoenaing Judge Merchan and his daughter. We need to understand what are the connections between big Democratic money and this sham prosecution. Did George Soros ever talk to Alvin Bragg about using his power to go after Donald Trump? We need to get to the bottom of it. And when we find wrongdoing, we need to be willing to actually punish it. That is the only language that I think these people are going to understand, is that if they do this, if they turn the American system of justice into banana republic garbage, they're going to suffer consequences for it. And if they don't, Jesse, it's not going to stop with Donald Trump. Banana republics never stop with the guy at the top. It's going to go after a ton of other Republican officials and conservatives unless we fight back.
I hope all you Democrats out there paid close attention, listened very carefully to what you just heard from J.D. Vance, because that very well could be a preview of coming attractions for Democrats. And I'm not just talking about senators. I'm not just I will mention one thing that could happen. If Trump wins, these two, that Judge Merchan and Alvin Bragg, the DA, they better start lawyering up, because there is a federal law statute. It's section 280, I believe, 280 something or other. I don't remember, but I know Legal Beagle was commenting on this. This comes ironically from the from the Jim Crow South, the Jim Crow, when black people were being lynched, where a black person could not get a fair trial, or in a reverse manner, a white defendant would not get a fair trial, and because the white defendant would get let off, the black person would be convicted. It happened over and over, and there's a federal law against that. That the federal government can prosecute a DA, can prosecute a judge for violating the civil rights of a defendant. And there are civil right violations here in this trial that we just saw. The one I just mentioned, that the Sixth Amendment, a defendant has a right to know the charges against him, and no charge, the main charge, this campaign violation, supposedly this alleged campaign violation, was never. It's not in the indictment. It's not in the indictment. So that's a civil that's a civil rights violation right there. I suspect that there are others. I don't want, this log is getting so long that I don't want to go into, give you a whole list. But there is a federal law. That's the point, that Trump, if he becomes president, his Justice Department can go after. They can arrest Mershon, can arrest or can at least charge Mershon and charge Bragg, and I would hope this would be my wish. This is where we are today. Put them in jail. Put them in jail while they stand trial. Deny bail, and certainly show them no mercy if they're convicted. And which, to be fair, could be very difficult because they would be tried in Manhattan. The same kind of jury pool that hurt Trump could help these. They only need one jury from a 96% Democrat area to not to go along with the verdict, to say not guilty and go, but they could still be very inconvenienced and hopefully, well, I don't want to go too far down that road. That's enough for now, but you could see a local DA. Remember, for instance, Hillary Clinton deleting all these emails. Trump could have charged her, and he chose not to. Well, what's the statute of limitations on what Hillary Clinton did, destroying classified documents and evidence, and taking a hammer to a cell phone and yada, yada, yada. Well, Trump could very well have second thoughts about maybe I should have charged Hillary Clinton if the statute of limitations has not run out. Well, maybe I should. And then you have local, Barack Obama ordered a drone strike on an American citizen, who was in Yemen, living in Yemen, but an American citizen who lives in Michigan. That's his residence where he was born. So maybe some Michigan district DA will charge Obama with murder. Why not? After what happened to Trump, why not? And you can go right down the list. Why not, as J.D. Vance said, just go down the whole, just pick people to prosecute, which is what they did with Trump. Pick somebody and just go through their whole history, go back 5, 10, 15, 20 years, as far as you have to, see if you can find something that they did unlawful, and see if you can turn that into a felony. Why not? The precedent is there. And I guess that's my thought for today. Many thoughts for today. Thanks for stopping by. If you could subscribe, that would really be great. Your comments, I may get a few this time. Welcome below the video. Just be respectful. That's all I ask. You're entitled to your opinion. Because there's a lot of anger out there, whichever side you're on. Just be respectful. If you could subscribe, that would really be great. Share this video with anyone you think would benefit from it. But most of all, come back and see me again. I would love to see all of you again. And until I do see all of you again, bye.